Today's episode is with the phenomenal Stacey Sheppard, who runs a co-working space for female entrepreneurs in a little town called near Totnes, which is in Devon in the UK. And this is an ongoing conversation, so lots of you listening to this will have this thought already. And what Stacey's done is she posted a video on her Instagram and on her and in the LinkedIn co-working group, which is where I'd like you to go and get involved, about the relationship of co-working spaces in local communities and how the local government needs to kind of recognise them. I'm not going to go into loads of detail because we talk about that a lot here. There's a load of comments under the post in the LinkedIn co-working group, but there's this kind of, well, where do I go to start my business? And more towns than ever now have a co-working space. And the way we articulate what a co-working space is to connect with the local government is really, really important. And there are loads of examples where this has worked. And what Stacey's whole video about, it's about 2 minutes long, so go and watch it, is a call to arms, a call to action, whatever you want to call it, for our community to make that happen. And we can talk more about this in the Unreasonable Connection event, which happens every month. This is exactly the kind of conversation we want to get people having. So Unreasonable Connection is people from all over who run mainly local, independently owned co-working spaces, talking about how to build community within their co-working space and build connections with their local area, local community, local municipality. Anyway, I think that's enough from me. Let's get into the show. Hello, folks. It is yet another Co-working Values podcast, and it's Stacey Sheppard in our luxury Vigo studio today. Stacey, what are you known for this month, and what would you like to be known for?
Is that because I'm multi-hyphenate? Yeah. So I run a co-working space for women in business and female entrepreneurs in rural Devon in the UK. And I am slowly moving into helping small businesses and solopreneurs use AI in their business in a way that feels authentic and aligned, so that they can maintain their magic and their mission and their message through the automation.
That's a lot of alliteration there, you know.
Yeah.
But is that what you'd like to be known for?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. I'm trying to hold back here because what you are known for this week is the post in the LinkedIn group and the Instagram post, which you're going to link to, and that is it's a conversation that you, me, and lots of other people have been having, and I think you kind of splayed it onto the internet this week. So what's that about?
Yeah, so I've been really closely watching and learning about AI since ChatGPT launched in November 2022. And as soon as it came out, there were red flags for me and alarm bells ringing everywhere. And I could just see the potential for it to really quickly erode the career I'd been building for 20 years in writing and content creation and digital marketing, influencer marketing. So my other career is as a professional content creator in the interior design industry. And I basically write content on my own interior design blog, but also for other brands in the interior design industry. And I just knew that this was so disruptive that it was going to have a massive impact on my career. So I started using AI to see what the threat was, what was it capable of, what could it do? And I was literally blown away by the incredible potential that I saw for AI for solopreneurs and small businesses, particularly in the marketing arena, because that's where my expertise is. But also the huge threat to professionals working in those industries like myself. And I wasn't wrong back in 2022. It has slowly eroded everything I've built and created. But because of what I do in the co-working industry, I haven't felt alone in that. Like I've got a community around me. I've got other businesses around me, and I know how to pivot and be flexible and be resilient. But it just really worries me that the disruption that AI is causing is going to leave a lot of people out there in no man's land having to adjust and pivot, and potentially not all of them will be able to. And I'm just seeing a massive crisis on the horizon that we really all need to be talking about.
Because I think we were talking about this before it came on, that crisis is here already, and it's like the lava is already burning. I'm not going to be able to, I'm not going to, sorry folks, I'm not going to be able to complete that analogy, so I'm going to cut it off.
The volcano has already erupted.
Yeah. The
volcano hasn't reached everyone yet.
But so what the bit I wanted to pick up on, because my brain just reconnected there, is there's like this happened to you, and you're a writer, and you built up this huge professional writing career, and now it's changed, and then you're around people that just because like we talk about this, like where there's another possibility available, and there's a load of people that have no idea that there's other possibilities available, and they don't need to be there. They're just disconnected. There's something like you said early before we came on, that there's a group of women that didn't know that the Southwest Growth Hub was available. Southwest Growth Hub was a thing in their area, and it's because they came to the co-working space that you run, and you went, "Oh, do you know about this?" And they're like, "I had no idea." And there's so many things that I found out about through co-working, usually over a coffee rather than a lunch and learn, that have changed the trajectory of my career.
I spend ridiculous amounts of time finding out myself about all of the business support that is available, ringing up the different departments, the different organizations that are offering the funded business support, all of these different programs, trawling through Eventbrite, signing up to newsletters just to find out about these things, so that I can give that information to the people in my community, because most of them really haven't got a clue that this is happening. And it's one of those magical things about going to a co-working space, is they do such a good job of curating the information around business support that's available to you and disseminating that to their members. And if you're, a solopreneur or a small business and you're working alone at home, you're not going to have access to that.
So there's something else we talk about, which is a big point of your post, or the video. If you go to the LinkedIn co-working group, folks, and there'll be a link in the show notes to that. We'll put a link. It's pinned at the time of writing, at the time of recording, to the top of the LinkedIn group. And it is, I'm going to simplify it here rather than over mansplain it. It's like I have seen this firsthand. Like, local governments spend a load of money on, how to start your business stuff, but they don't recognize or connect with or even know that the co-working space in their local area exists. So they're blowing money over here on something that is already happening here. And the point you make, and I've always thought this, but then you articulated it a few weeks ago, is like when you're starting a business, it's not, I'm going to go to a seminar and suddenly got a business. It's all the day-to-day and relationship building. Do you want to riff on that bit?
Yeah, so we've talked about this before, that there's all these 6-week boot camps or, small week-long sessions on how to do every aspect of running a business when you're first starting out. And they are absolutely great, and they are really, really needed. But the problem is they finish after 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever it is. And then you're left with enormous amounts of information on all the things that you need to do and implement to start and grow a business. And then the course ends and you're out on your own again, and there's no wraparound support, there's no accountability, there's nothing to support you further along that journey. And I just think co-working spaces fill that gap so wonderfully, because once you've done your initial 6-week boot camp, finding your local co-working space so that you can be around other people on that journey further along, mostly if you're just starting out, and having somewhere where you can find the peer mentors, the networks, coach each other, get all that information about follow-up support or follow-up courses, or where to get funding to implement the stuff that you've learned, all that kind of stuff, that can easily be found in your local co-working space, and they're there, offering that support and actively gathering that support for people. But it just feels so disjointed that it could be that the impact of that investment from government and local councils could be amplified so much more if we just connected the dots.
And there's always this thing. It's one of my favorite things. Is like when you we're just doing a podcast with Mari, which is an even better example. And she runs for 10 years now. She's run a co-working space in Puerto Rico. And at the end of it, I said, "Oh, is there anything I haven't asked you?" And she talked a lot about what we're talking about here. And then she said, when a factory comes and opens up, it says we're bringing 200 jobs to the area. And when that factory closes and goes somewhere else for a better deal, 200 jobs disappear and all the space and everything that happened. But then I can't remember the exact words. So basically, it's like a co-working space creates jobs in the local area, it keeps the revenue, the money, the economy, and everything in a local area, and it keeps creating jobs. And then exactly what you said here is like when work changes, most of the people in that building will change with they will what's the word, pivot, adapt, whatever the term is. So it's like never ending revenue. I don't want to say revenue. What's the word I'm looking for? Save me, please. Like job work thing in the neighborhood. There we go.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
So
one of my
sophisticated.
members said to me the other day, because we were talking about AI in the co-working space, and she said, "I'm actually not that worried about it, Stacey, because I know that you're on the case and you're learning it for us, and you're going to tell us what we need to know." And I made that part of my mission. As soon as AI came along, I was like, Jesus, this is going to be massively disrupting to small businesses. And I know that my community, a lot of them are, really hardworking mums that are running their own businesses, and to try and learn all about AI as well as everything else they're doing was going to be huge. I love learning and I love a challenge. And so I just, did all the courses, did all the learning, so that I can pass down some of that information and that knowledge to them. And that is just, it's so valuable because it's so difficult these days to run a business, a small business, or be a solopreneur, that being able to like knowledge share and tap into that collective intelligence is so valuable.
It's all the like most of what I know about AI has come from Kofi at Urban MBA, and I made this decision to just listen to him and write with AI, which is a Substack publication, and not get distracted anything else. And then there's conversations I have with people like you, and being and my point there is that it didn't come from watching, well, actually I write with AIs on the internet, but randomly watching people on the internet. And I've been in rooms that like I saw how AI would apply to my, because you and me like write a lot and stuff like that. When I was at the Urban MBA year-long course, and all the people on that cohort of Urban MBA were the first people to have ChatGPT available for their course. And Kofi's been talking about this. I've known him since 2019, and he's been talking about this. And he just said, "This is what you can do with it." And they this is just to endorse your point, by the way. They were the people that said, "I used it to do this, make this image. I used it to write this. I used it to basically everything that involves producing something and putting it on the internet and running a website and doing social media." And that was whenever ChatGPT came out, like 21 or 22, yeah. 2022. Mm-hmm. So that was 3 years ago now, And can you remember when you didn't have any AI?
Yeah, it's nuts. It's really nuts. It's already so embedded for people who are already learning about it, but there's so many people who are either still scared of it, and this is especially for women. The main fears for women are the ethics, data, and privacy issue. Like they're worried about what they're giving up in terms of privacy and the ethical implications of using it, whether it's authentic or not. They're worried about the environmental impact of using it. They are worried about being seen as cheating. That's a big obstacle for a lot of women. And the AI gender gap is already quite massive. The last stat I read was something like 37% of women were using it compared to 50% of men. But that was a good few months ago now, so I'm hoping it will be better than that now. But so many people aren't using it, and it's going to be such a huge part of everything. But we're going to have to go through this real period of disruption where the whole economic model is going to change and the world of work is going to completely change. And I just feel like we need to prepare for that, and we really need to put those safety nets and those support networks in place ASAP, if we're going to have a thriving economy in the AI age as a country. And we are always hearing, there's been government reports on it, they talk about it all the time, there's no pathway to entrepreneurship. I really genuinely believe that there is, and I believe it is the co-working industry. I believe we are perfectly positioned to support entrepreneurs in starting and growing businesses. It's just a lot of people don't know that we exist. There's no mechanism for funneling people from schools, from universities who decide to set up their own business directly into the local co-working ecosystem. It's just not, it hasn't been established as part of the ecosystem. It's like co-working spaces are here. We're building the pathway, we're doing the work, we are building that ecosystem for our communities. And then there's everyone else, and they're doing their own little ecosystems. The government's putting on all these funded boot camps and stuff, but it would be so much more valuable, and it would really amplify the impact of any investments into business support if we just all work together. And it just seems like such a no-brainer to me, but yeah, it's not happening.
There's loads of examples. Like this is the bit that startles me. Who says that anyway? I was so startled, Stacey, by this stat. That there's boroughs and local authorities that are like really on the ball with it, and there's others that I don't even know if they have the internet in their office.
Yeah.
It's like it's so crazy. How and they, like, where the borough I used to live in, London, it's Redbridge. I was going to try and be nice there and not say it, Redbridge, and it is. I don't know yet right now because I looked this stat up in 2022 when I was having a similar conversation. There's 32 London boroughs, and it's something like the fifth borough with the most registered businesses in it. And that most registered businesses in it could be, someone who's like got 3 drop shipping companies and they're running it from their house or something like that. But there's an above average amount of businesses. But the infrastructure for the civic infrastructure, if you like, for people having those businesses is really hard. I looked for a co-working space there and eventually found Workhive, which didn't really have a website because it's a very good, it's a serviced office with a bit of co-working. And the guy has an A board outside, and he doesn't really need to promote it because the rest of the offices in the area are so bad. He has no competition, which is not, sounds really good for his point of view, but it's not really encouraging local entrepreneurship in the way you're advocating or we're advocating.
I just think it's such a huge missed opportunity.
Meanwhile, next door is our friend Karen, who commented on your thread in the co-working thing, and Barking is ahead of the curve and part of that is to do with, there's a whole new development in the dock area there, but they are doing more to think about what we're talking about here than other boroughs. Can I just ask you, because I keep on meaning to ask you, like the responses under your post in the LinkedIn co-working group, what, I'm not going to ask you to read them out, but like what did you obviously you can only say I was encouraged by it because otherwise it would be terrible to the podcast, but
yeah, no, I mean, I think
what was your takeaway?
The fact that it's in the co-working group means you're kind of preaching to the converted, right? because anyone who runs a co-working space knows the value that we bring. But I think this is a conversation that co-working space operators need to come together and bring that outside of the co-working industry. And I just feel like we need to get the right people listening. And we need to make some noise about this, because there genuinely is a crisis on the horizon. And like I mentioned in my post, the education system, like, it's not working anymore. We've got graduates coming out of university with no entry level jobs to go to already. I read an article a couple of weeks ago. It was a graduate from Exeter University, which is our local uni down here in Devon. And it was a student who'd written the article, and he said, we were already worried about the job market before we went and started our degrees, but we were told, as long as you choose a vocational degree with a guaranteed job at the end of it, you should be all right. So he got into accountancy, and he just graduated in accountancy, and the news stories at the time were all like, accountants are numbered, like AI can do this now, it's data, that's what AI does best, so accountants are not going to be needed anymore. And we've got this happening in industries all over the country where graduates are coming out and there just aren't the entry level jobs to go to. I have no idea what's going to happen if we get rid of entry level jobs and give it to AI, how anyone becomes a manager. Because if you don't start, how do you become a manager? I have no idea how that's going to pan out. But the fact that the education system isn't working either, we need to support all these people who are finding themselves in this situation. I was on a call yesterday with the marketing lecturer at Plymouth University talking about their students, and how they're being encouraged to think about starting a side hustle or a business as soon as they start uni now, because this is going to be the future for so many young people, is entrepreneurship. And that's just what they're going to need to be encouraged to do. But they're going to need support to do that as soon as they leave university. I mean, it's quite safe within university, starting your business, having a lecturer there and your peers. But once you're out on your own and you've graduated, then what? Where do they go then?
To a co-working space. And
yes.
that little segment you just described there is one of the that has happened over the last 5 years with people who have come to Urban MBA. And one of the key reasons we sort of fell in love with Urban MBA is because it helped. I knew how hard it was for me to start my network when I was little, and I just didn't know. I thought you started a business and then suddenly customers showed up. I didn't realize how important building your network, and then in the Drive network, I mean, they talk about it's not your network for your business, it's your network for life.
Yeah.
And there's people in that networking group that I have known and done stuff with for 15 years. I met some of them on Twitter in 2008, and it's a big deal. So the people from Urban MBA come to London Co-working Assembly events. They learn to grow their network. So they meet, grown-ups in air quotes. And then over the last 5 years, people have, we can go on forever about how many people have met someone, got a job, got work experience, and worked out how to just navigate the world of work that you're describing there. And if you just roll out of university, if you go to university in Plymouth and then you go back to home to London, building your network, it's not impossible, but you have to, be on the ball with it.
Yeah. And that's exactly one of the reasons why I set up a co-working space rather than a networking group. Because when you are starting and growing a business and you're having difficulty or struggling, and you need a bit of help or support or accountability, or just someone to tell you that everyone's struggling right now, whatever it is, you can't always wait until the third Thursday of every month to get that support for 2 hours at your local hotel or wherever that networking event is. But your local co-working space is there, either 24/7 or Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, like whenever you need that support, it's there. in the same location day after day after day. And that's so valuable.
When that little scene you just described there. So I used to, like, 15 years ago, I used to run two networking groups. One was a monthly networking group, and one was an every breakfast group every 2 weeks. And then we did other events. So I got to know a load of people, and I was in a freelancer group called Kindred that met every weekday. We met for 4 hours in a different co-working space, which is how I got to know so many co-working spaces in London. And it was when I was in the networking group for freelancers where we went to a co-working space every day, I just thought, why am I doing these networking groups? Because I get this like hit of dopamine for breakfast and it's like an event. But actually the real learning, work and connection happens when we're sitting in the co-working space. And of course you can sit anywhere. It doesn't have to be a co-working space, but the people and the building just transformed, how my mindset professionally, and bumping into other people, finding out how to use WordPress. And most people listening to this would have had this experience, but the proximity and the showing up daily. And you said somewhere there about accountability, and it wasn't so much sitting down in a super cool mastermind group. It was like, oh, yesterday, how's your website going? Oh my God, I still haven't done my website. How's that blog post on women in co-working? I need to be reminded of things I've said out loud that
it just makes you much more likely to complete on the things you've said you're going to do. But the other beautiful thing about co-working spaces, like, you can connect with the LEP or the Southwest Growth Hub or whatever it is in your area. But there are niche co-working spaces. So obviously mine is aimed at women. There's another one locally here in Totnes that is aimed at social entrepreneurs who are working in sort of like social and environmental arenas. And there's one over in Exmouth just down the way that is for techpreneurs. And like that kind of real niche support is very different to what you'll get from the general business support that is on offer through a lot of these like funded programs. And that's just another benefit that co-working spaces offer that is really underestimated in the whole business ecosystem.
One last thing before we go, and then we have to do a great call to action, Stacey.
Yes.
When you operate at our level, let's do. I want to sort of unelegantly drag back to it because I don't think it gets. I know it doesn't get talked about enough. Is that AI gender gap? Because Kofi talks about this as well, and then another friend of mine who works in a big tech company. When I said it to them, I actually sent them your post from whenever it was a few weeks ago, and they went, "Oh my God, like that never occurred to me." And they were like, "I can." It's like I'd shown them this crystal ball, and and she's high up in a tech company, and she goes, "That's exactly what is happening. I can see it all around me." What can you say a bit more about that before I ask some dumb guy conversation starter?
So, I mean, this was the first thing that was on my mind when it came to AI, because I was seeing who's making the AI. Like, it's all the Silicon Valley tech bros that we watch. We know that there's an underrepresentation of women in the STEM industries. There's an underrepresentation of women building AI and an underrepresentation of women using AI. But these systems are trained on data which is often not sex disaggregated, and it's not representative of how women experience the world and live in the world. And so if we don't have more women involved in building these AI systems, using the AI systems, training the systems, it's not gonna represent us in the way that it functions. And it's so important that women get involved, because we're 50% of the population. Like it has to work for us. The systems that are resulting from it have to work for women as well. But unless we get on board with it's just going to leave us behind, and it scares me.
And is there like what can we do to help that? Like there's a group of people that are, we're, like you said earlier, like we're already in. So there's a group of people in co-working that are always advocating for inclusion and diversity and accessibility and equity. But I have found, and I've been one of those people that I've had to have it a little bit spelt out to me. Oh, okay, then I didn't realize I did that. Now I can do it. And it's a very small change, but it makes a big difference.
Yeah. So when I first started signing up for all these AI courses, I literally just signed up for all of them. So the Federation, Small Businesses, Enterprise Nation, all of them were running free AI boot camps that were paid for by places like BT. I signed up for all of them. I found a place on a funded course. It was funded by the council at King's College London to go on an AI certification course there. And I just thought, you know what, I want to learn about this myself because I want to teach this to my community. B, I want to see how is it being taught, like what are the lessons like, are they being delivered in a way that is accessible to women and that will make women feel comfortable with this tech. And C, are women signing up, are they actually doing the courses at the same rate as men? And then D, what is their take on it? Like, what is their reaction? Because a lot of them were online and there was a chat going on. And what I saw in most of the courses was that there was a lot of tech jargon, a lot of expertise that was shared in a very inaccessible way. A lot of women were on the call at the beginning. I could watch them slowly drop off throughout the duration of the course. The chat was often full of comments saying, I don't understand, I'm not following, like, what is this? What is that term? Like, what is a GPT? Like very, very normal questions that were addressing the level at which the beginner's course was being pitched to. And I've known this all along, that often the delivery needs to be slightly different for women. We have different barriers, different experiences, different perspectives, different, I don't know, we just often learn differently. And that just made me really determined to start teaching this for my own community in the way I know that they needed to receive it, which was without all the jargon, without talk of coding and all this complicated stuff, because that's not where they are. We need to meet them where they are, not where the experts think they are, because it's that paradox of once you know too much,
Yeah, definitely. There's you said like we learn differently, and I think I think there's a like, as I don't I very rarely teach anything, but like I got taught to work out how the people in the room need to learn before I start talking, because it's very easy to go, yeah. And if you rolled me into a room now and said, "Oh, can you just teach this blogging workshop?" I'd go into autopilot, and I'd probably miss that step out. To be fair, I'd be like so excited and wrapped up in, "Am I going to get this right?" So I have to make an effort to say, before I get into this, who listens to, who works best by ask. I think the best way to do is just to do Q&A, because then everyone and work out who's not saying anything and ask them, are you not saying anything because you are shy, or because you don't want to speak, or or you don't understand anything, but it's a responsibility. And I was taught this at uni by my professors, like, it's my responsibility as a person at the front of the room to make sure that I'm doing it for the people in front of me. And I think there's, as you were talking about that, it's very easy to go into mansplaining or whatever you're doing, particularly in tech.
Yeah.
And I find that as a guy, that experience you just said there, I have that too.
Yeah,
I mean, I jumped to the word
tech
different.
isn't one of the industries that most women feel super comfortable or confident in to begin with. So I just think being aware of what people's levels are when they're starting to look into this is really important, and creating that kind of safe space where they feel like they can ask questions and not feel stupid, or starting at the very beginning. Often, like, some of the comments in the chat, what is a GPT? It's a lot of people are starting really from basics, from scratch, and a lot of the workshops and courses lose people so quickly because it's new for so many people, and it's mind-blowing. It's really mind-blowing.
Do
So
you know?
yeah.
Do you know? Wild tangent here, but have you heard of a book called Brotopia by Emily Chang?
No.
And I'm going to put a link in the show notes to this, folks. And she's I think it's for like CBS or one of those kind of. She runs the tech report on one of these big US channels, and she wrote a book called Brotopia, and it's how the internet was set up and how so much of it was just like a load of guys in a room set up the internet and did stuff to it. So like everything, all the foundations of it are, I don't know, football, beer, and stuff like that, cars. But there's more explanation in the link I'm going to put in. But you just, until I'd read that, I didn't realize how much of it was just that Brotopia thing.
Have you read Invisible Women?
I have.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks to Shazia and Mustafa and Feminist City too. We're getting well woke here. We've got to slow down. But we'll put links to those books in there too, because it's like even in 2025, there's a higher level of consideration needed. Like a one, I think it's in Invisible Women, but it's kind of like known the room temperature that women are very comfortable in is different from where men are. Can you say about that? Because that's
isn't it? Women prefer a slightly warmer temperature.
Yeah. So now I just take my hoodie off rather than open the window, and everyone's happy. We need to bring it back. So this is an ongoing conversation, folks. We'll put a link to link in the show notes to the LinkedIn group and the conversation around there. A lot of people have chimed in already. And over the next, weeks and months, we need to find examples of where local authorities, anyone can join in, but particularly in the UK, local authorities are working really well with co-working spaces. And then when we find those local authorities that are working really well with co-working spaces, what should we do with those, Stacey?
I think it would just be really great to find out how they see the situation, because they obviously see what we see, and they're obviously on board with it and get the value and the benefits that co-working spaces bring to the table. So if we could find out from them their sort of their train of thought on that, then maybe we can use that information to approach other local councils who maybe aren't quite so far along that thought process yet.
Yeah, I think like when it's like, and if you do it if they can do it, so can you.
Yeah.
It gives a bit more confidence. And what I have found over the years is when you, not all the time, but if you go and if you take Exhibit A to someone in a local council, they'll go, "That's what I needed," and then you're not persuading that person. It's for them to take it back into the, chambers or whatever the councils have nowadays, chambers of secrets, and they need a story to tell internally. Something you said earlier, which I think is a really big point, is in that co-working group, there's, I don't want to misquote you, but you said something like those people who are already, in the conversation. So like everyone's agreeing in that thread.
Yeah.
And rather than everyone going, which is what I did, like, yeah, great point, Stacey. It's like, put links in there that will further the conversation, or I found this issue, or I don't agree with you, would be really useful too, because there might be reasons it doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think knowledge sharing just makes it so much more useful for everybody, doesn't it? Because we're all spinning our wheels. We're all trying to do the same thing. But if we could come together as an industry and really make some noise and really try to move this forward a bit, because I think we need this.
We do. We absolutely do. Where's so link in the show notes to the co-working LinkedIn conversation, and where can we follow you and find you and keep up with all your antics and stuff? And
So
accuse you of stuff.
I'm on LinkedIn, Stacey Sheppard, and on Instagram at The Tribe Coworks is our Instagram handle. And our website is www.thetribecoworking.co.uk.
Brilliant. Really, thank you for making that video, because it's something that gets talked about all the time, and when you're very good at video, full stop, but then chucking that out there has instigated this. The response in the LinkedIn group was great, and I know you posted it on your personal LinkedIn profile and on Instagram, so it's happening. I've said so much about the show notes. I'm going to miss out my usual little speech, folks, but it's all in the show notes. And wherever you are in the world, be careful out there. It is a jungle. And thank you for your time and attention today. Say goodbye, Stacey.
Thank you so much for having me, Bernie.
Bye.
Bye.